Hello everybody, welcome to the Sketchfab tutorial. I'm just going to go over some items in Sketchfab. So what is Sketchfab? Why are we using it? Sketchfab is a model hosting site, and these are some of the models that I own or that I've done. This is a model that I scanned from an actual museum piece, and I can go ahead and embed this model into my website. So once you've got your website built, we can go ahead, and I usually turn this on too because I like it bigger, and we can copy to clipboard our models, and then we can jump over to our website. Let me get to the right one here. This is the one where you guys will be looking at, and we can bring a embed code widget in here and just drag that in, and we hit custom HTML, and I just paste that in, Control V, and then click off of it, and voila, there we go. We have this in here, and it's actually being hosted by Sketchfab, so it's not really taking up any memory on our site, just the text is, and then you can look at your models right from here. So basically we'll have a 116 heading up here like I showed in the Weebly video, the building the website video, which is this one right here. And what you'll do is, instead of loading separate models every time, we're just going to keep re-uploading over the same model. So if we're in Sketchfab, I can come into here and I can go to edit properties, and it says re-upload right here. So you can re-upload over this. So each week we'll work on our work, and then we'll re-upload our work into the same file. So we'll just keep going over and over it. So let's go ahead and just look at how we might do that. So first off, I didn't mention, and I probably should, that basically to sign up for Sketchfab is completely free. All you have to do is, if I was logged out here, let's see, log out, and you'll see there's a sign up button here. So when you go ahead and hit sign up, it'll walk you through your sign up, and then you just go ahead and make your own profile. And so let's go ahead and just look at a complete process of me creating something, and I'll export it and I'll bring it into Sketchfab. Okay, so this is Maya, and this is what we'll be using. And so I'm in the modeling standard space right now. So if you go over and look at the workspace, usually when you start off, you'll be in the general workspace, so it'll look something like this. But I like to go into the modeling standard. One thing that I have changed is that in the modeling standard, this channel box is usually not docked. It's a separate floating panel. So if you go to pull the channel box out by bringing this you hit this little button all the way on the top right side, it will be floating. I just dragged it. So it's usually like this, and I just dragged it so it was like that. So I put it inside there because I like it docked. That's how they originally did it, and then they changed it at some point. So I put it back. Okay, so anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to be on our poly modeling tab here. So you've got all these different tabs that you can see. And in this tutorial, I'm not going to really teach you how to do much. I'm just going to show you that go to your poly modeling, and we're going to hit this T right here, which is a text tool. So once I click on that, you can see that I've got some kind of 3D text up here, and if I hit F on my keyboard, it'll frame that 3D text. And I will show you how to navigate a little bit. So I'm just going to hold Alt and left click on my mouse, and I can rotate around the 3D text. And if I keep holding Alt and I middle mouse drag, by the way, you're going to want a mouse with the middle mouse button. If you middle mouse drag, you can pan. And then if you keep holding Alt and you right click, you can drag left to right, and it will zoom in. You could also zoom in by rolling your mouse. And I actually have like a little squeaky mouse. It's funny because mice squeak, but my mouse, if you hear a squeaky noise, that's my mouse. Anyway, so I'm just holding Alt, right clicking and dragging left and right. Or I'm holding Alt, middle mouse dragging anywhere you want, up, down, left, right, or holding Alt and I'm just hitting the left mouse button to rotate. And then you hit F to frame your object. And once you frame an object, the rotation will be set around that object. So if you find like you're out here and you're rotating, you're going, I can't see anything, or I'm not rotating around my object, and you hit F, it'll bring it back to the middle, and then it will rotate around it. The same thing if you, we'll get into this later, but if you grab like faces and you, like if you're over here and you hit F, it'll actually focus right on the faces that are selected. We don't need to get into that this week, but just so you know, that's how the frame works, and we use this all the time. Okay, so you just saw me change from what's called component mode, which is all I'm doing is holding right-clicking, and I just keep holding down, and you get what's called a marking menu up. And then while I'm still holding right-click, I just pull down to where it says face, and that's what allowed me to grab these faces. But then I don't want to actually be in this mode right now. I want to go and right click again and hold down and drag to object mode. Okay, so you just learned what the marking menu is. So you just right click and hold down, and this is not touching any buttons. You actually can change this contextually. If I hold spacebar, you can actually change your views and stuff like that by right clicking and holding down. So we'll get into that later in next week, but I just wanted to, if you wanted to scroll around here a little bit and rotate, you can do so. Okay, so you might see that when I made this attribute editor came up. If you did not see an attribute editor come up, you can look over here in the top right corner. There's a bunch of buttons, and you can hit any of these buttons, and it basically just brings up different menus. This is a tool menu, we don't need that. But the attribute one is the one right in the middle, and we use this a lot. And we use the channel box a lot, and sometimes the modeling toolkit, but these two we use a lot. You can hit Control A to toggle between those two menus. They actually built in hotkeys for it because you use these so often. So I'm just going to be in my attribute editor, and I'm going to go ahead and go over to the type right here, this little tab inside of here. And inside of here, you can see there's a text field, and this is where I can change my text or what to say whatever I want. So in other words, like my name is Triplet, so I can go ahead and type that in, and the text will just come out. Okay, so this is kind of cool. We can just make 3D fonts like this. We can change the type of font we want. So if you want to load in a certain kind of font, and you want to change to it, this one's actually really nice and clean. Be careful when you do these. Sometimes there's certain fonts that don't translate well into 3D text. Usually if they're kind of like spray painty with a lot of spots in them, like little tiny spots, you might get some weird artifacts. So anything though that's kind of blocky, like most of the ones you see here, these would be fine. So yeah, anyway, so we've got, you know, I'm going to just keep it like this. This is cool. And I'm going to go ahead and just talk a little bit about some of the settings. We don't have to go too deep into this. This is just basically to run through the overall exercise of exporting and getting stuff into Sketchfab and on our website. So basically we have curve resolution. This is perfectly fine right now. The curve resolution is adequate. If you turn it down, it might become really blocky like so. But if you turn it up too high, then you're actually kind of overtaxing the computer, and Sketchfab only has so much memory that you can load up into it, so you don't want to load up a massively heavy file. So when we're modeling during the semester, we usually try to keep our stuff pretty what would I say is, you know, I would say your whole scene should probably be under 300,000 polygons. You might note that I have these numbers up here. This is called a heads up display. So if I go into my display, heads up display poly count, I can check this on display, heads up display poly count, and then I can see how many faces this has, which is 596. That's plenty low. So there's no problem with that, but there's no reason to have extra geometry if it's not really adding to the overall form of the object. So that's the point. So we want to be as efficient as possible. We have a bunch of other settings like deformable type is kind of like a weak attempt at making this so you can like deform it. We'll go over deformers later. And then the one I want to focus on though is extrusion. So we don't really need 4 extrusions extrusion divisions here, because we just really need the one. What it does is it basically makes like a flat polygon out of a text object, and then it extrudes and puts these divisions in here. We only really need 1, so I can just pull that down to 1. And so now we've actually made this more efficient and lighter. For certain models you might need divisions, but in this case we don't. And we may, maybe we don't want this to be as fat. So we could say, instead of being, it was at 2.5 I think, but if we say 2, that's 2 centimeters. So in Maya units, each one of these is a centimeter. So 2 centimeters, and that should be pretty good for that. And we don't need to go over any of that. The bevel's kind of neat. If you turn the bevel on, so we say enable bevel, you get like this little bevel that it puts around the front face, which I usually dig. It's pretty cool. So you can change the profile of these, so you can kind of make them like, so they're like curved in like that, or stair-steppy, or maybe like some kind of swoopy curve. And we'll learn how to make curves ourselves, that we can make our own profiles if we wanted to. We'll be doing that with a pillar. We'll be making like the base of a pillar later, but this is something fun that you may want to play with. I think I'm just gonna keep it like the original one that I turned on. I think that's pretty nice, but I don't need 6 divisions. That's probably too many for me, so I'll probably just turn it down to 3, which should be fine. So that looks nice. And you see it's got it in the back too, so it looks good from either side. Now we want to work in 4-edged or quad polygons or triangles. Normally we're usually doing polygons, quad polygons, which means that if we look at one of these little faces right here, you can see there's 4 sides. This has 4 sides. This is a triangle, which is, either one of these will render fine. But when we get to this huge face right here that you can see has like all these edges connected to it, that's what we call an n-gon. And what happens is that Maya knows how to draw this n-gon because it was created in Maya. But if I export an n-gon like this, sometimes if you bring it into like Blender or Sketchfab or Houdini or some other program, that n-gon will actually not work well. So what we do is we triangulate it. Now, if we turned on this deformable mesh, it actually sort of does that for us. However, it puts extra stuff that we really don't need. We can just go up to mesh and tell it to triangulate right here just by hitting this button. You can go like that. And then now we have all these faces that were n-gons are now triangulated, and they should render fine in Sketchfab. Okay, so that's one thing we want to do to get our text ready, but we also want to put a material on this so we can color it. So let's just do that really quick. I'm going to show you, there's a couple ways to put materials on. I'm going to show you the hypershade first, which is this blue circular sphere that's right underneath help. So I'm going to click on that, and this might look, all this stuff might be overwhelming, so don't worry about, like, you don't have to learn everything about this stuff. But basically when you make a type like this, it will make a material for it. So like this is the material that's on here. I had some other ones in here earlier, so that's why I deleted those, but here's the material that's on here. So if I just click on the color here and change it, you can see that all of a sudden this changes color. If I wanted to put like this Lambert material on here, I can select this, or first I actually have to select the object, and I can right click and hold using this is the marking menu. So I'm holding my right click down, my right mouse button, and I just drag my mouse till my cursor goes over assign material, and then you can see it went back onto this, and then I can just change that back. I can come over to here, right click, hold, and go assign material. So that's how you could assign material. That's one way. The other way you might want to do it, and this is if you're watching videos that are older of mine, Maya just changed how you apply some of these materials in the viewport. You'll see me doing it at kind of an older way, but the interface is a little bit different now. It's almost the same, but just a tiny bit different. And I'll show you how that is. So in case you're watching an older video, you'll see me use the marking menu. So I right click over the object, and normally in the older videos I'd go to assign new material. I don't use these now. So instead of doing that, I go assign favorite material. And I usually, in my older videos, I'll put a blend on. So I'll just go blend, something like that. And then if you're in your attribute editor, usually the blend will come up right here. So you can actually see it. You don't have to go to the hypershade per se. I mean, you could. It's right here. Okay, but I'm going to close that. But so I have the blend right here, and then normally what I do is I'll name it. I'll call it like M for material, and then underscore. You need to put underscores in Maya. It doesn't like spaces, so just letting you know, if you want to space stuff, it might complain. So just put an underscore in between things. So M underscore text, something like that would be fine, and then just hit enter. And then I might want to change the color and say, okay, I'd like it to be kind of like this pale blue. Something like that. Or you can go ahead and just play with the color wheel and figure out what you like. Blends have a little bit of like specular highlight to them, so you can see like there's this little highlight on it, and they're nice because you can kind of makes it look a little bit more flashy. All right, so if I click off of this, we can see what our object looks like. Cool, that looks great. All right, so I'm done with the Maya part, other than I want to delete my history and export this. Now, deleting history, you're like, wait, what? Every step that I do in Maya kind of gets saved onto whatever it is you're working on. So if I go over to my channel box up here, or I can hit Control A. Let's see, it's not docked anymore. Let me redock it. That's because I reset my, it's not letting me move it. Let me move this out. There we go. I'm going to redock this right here. And it didn't do it right. Let's do it again. There we go. Okay. In my channel box, you'll see that there's all these things underneath where it says shape. So this is the shape, and then it's a type mesh shape. That's basically its name. And then it's got these things called inputs, and all these are basically different things that I did to it, or that were created when that were automatically created when I made the shape itself by hitting the T button up here. So all of this stuff basically adds to kind of like a memory load on this, and every so often we delete our history unless we're working on stuff like character rigging, but we're not going to do anything like that in this class. So there are times where you don't delete your history because you actually need these input connections. But in this case, we don't need any of these input connections. So before we export, we just come up to this button. It kind of looks like a clock with little lines underneath it and an X. And you just click this, and then you'll see everything disappear. So basically, it's freeing up all of the information that was loaded onto this mesh, and now we're ready to export. Okay, so the next thing is, let's go File, and in File you'll see there's a bunch of different options to export. There's Export All and Export Selection. I almost always do Export Selection because normally I have multiple things in a file and I only want to export one thing at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Export Selection, and by default it always comes up as a Maya binary file, but you can't put this into Sketchfab. So you have really two main options to put into Sketchfab. There's more, but we'll stick with the two. There's an FBX export and there's the OBJ export. OBJ is just basically an object and a material. So whatever material you have on there, and then the geo itself, the geometry itself. And FBX actually will export like a scene and multiple materials and stuff like that. So typically FBX is probably better. So if we go FBX, and then I'm going to go ahead and just name it. So I'll just call this triplet text or something like that. And then for now, I think I'm just going to throw it on my desktop just to make everything easier. And I'll say Export Selection. So now an FBX scene that has this model and this material should have been exported. We didn't create anything else, so the FBX won't send anything else out that's significant. All right, so now we want to jump back into Sketchfab. Okay, so I need to log in, of course. And all right, so I'll click on my little face thing up here, and then I'll just do an upload. So it says upload right here, hit upload, and it says drag and drop or browse. Okay, so later in the semester, we'll sometimes be doing materials and textures. And so in that case, we might take our FBX and our textures and zip them into one file, one folder, and then drag that in. That's how we'll usually do it if we have textures. But in this case, we don't have to worry about that because there's no textures. So all I have to do is really go and browse to my desktop and throw that thing up there. So there it is, triplet text test. So open, and we just say upload files. It'll take a second. Sometimes if it's having problems, make sure you deleted your history. Make sure that you triangulated it. Otherwise, you know, there are times that it won't work if you, especially if you like try to load something up that's like way too high poly, that Sketchfab can't handle it. Like if you try to put a million polys in here, it's probably going to reject it. You might be able to get that in, but rarely. So anyway, so we've got our thing here. You know, we have the name of this. I can just, you know, get rid of that space now. I can write a description. We can put tags. We can put categories. I think if you click in here, it actually has. So I'm not going to put anything. I'm just going to like maybe put testing. And then we have to hit save. Okay, now we can edit 3D settings. Okay, so it's gonna pop in. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Looks great. All right. So from now on, we'll be basically re-uploading over this file. We can leave our signature in our file so that everybody knows, you know, whose it is. But we'll be re-uploading over it, so we don't have to keep uploading over and over and over again. At least separate files, that is. So from here, you know, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can play in Sketchfab. I have a video on like all kinds of things you can do in here. You know, you can, there's all kinds of things, but we'll go into that later. I don't want to overwhelm you. I will go over to the materials tab and show you that, see this base color came in. So inside of here, if you want, you know, you can change the color right inside of here. You know, if you're just working with a color. So I can do something like that. And, you know, for instance, I can make it look reflective by turning up either the glossiness, or I'm actually going to change it to metallic roughness, turn metallic all the way up, and let's see how that looks. It doesn't look metallic to me yet. Well, let's see here. Maybe it's the environment. Oh wait, the roughness is all the way up. That's what I turned the roughness the wrong direction. That's what I wanted. Okay, so I want to go something like that. Okay, so turning the roughness down, meaning it's a smoother surface. A rough surface is diffused, so you know it looks rough, and a smoother surface is what you actually want. I was like flipping it in my head. Okay, so that's pretty cool looking, and so now we've done all that. The next thing you want to do is save your view, so get it so it looks cool. Something like this, you know. And if you want to play around, there's lighting and everything. You can do some really cool stuff. In fact, just a real simple thing to change the lighting. Just come into here, and you can change the orientation of the background. Let's try a different background. That one doesn't look that good. There we go. That looks pretty cool. You can change like the orientation of your background, the brightness, and so now you've got that nice little reflection off of there. And then we can say save view. And then we can say publish and go to see my model. Okay, there you go. Now you've got a model up there. Not too hard. And in here you don't have to hold Alt. You can just click. You can just left click, and middle mouse pans, just kind of like in Maya, but you don't have to hold Alt. And let's see. So if you hold Control and right mouse button, you can zoom in and out. So it's similar. You could also middle mouse wheel, just like you can in Maya. A lot of the 3D programs have very similar navigation. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Okay, so from here, like we could say embed, copy to clipboard. Like I said, I like to turn on this the size here, and then copy to clipboard. It adds it basically adds like this in here, so that you can make your stuff look bigger in your frame. And go back to my website, and then of course, let's say I just want to edit HTML. I'll just paste over that, click off of it, and there you go. That's about it. And don't forget to publish. Okay, so this is about the easiest, fastest way to be able to examine your meshes that you're making by just like, you have it right here in the viewport, so you can go to your website and you can just click on it. Now remember, you can take these and send them to employers when you start getting good at modeling. You could use this as a portfolio piece and you have it right there on your website, so it's not just a static mesh. It lets somebody really dig in and see if you can really do what you say you can do. And so anyway, I appreciate you watching this and thank you so much. Have a great day and I hope you have fun modeling.